just going to press record. Is she still there?
She's on mute.
Hello, so hi. So welcome to the session, everyone. I'm going to go through what a traineeship is and how it will help your organisation. They are very flexible government funded programmes. So anyone's got any questions, as Simone says, just pop them in the chat and she will help me out, hopefully. So just going to give you an overview. So they're free skills development programs that are aimed at 16 to 24-year-olds, 25 if you have an EHCP. This is an educational healthcare plan. So these are some young people who might have particular learning differences, neurodivergency, physical disabilities, which might mean that they need an extra bit of support and funding. So they go up to 25 years with an EHCP. So they include a work placement, and the work placement is the key bit of the traineeship. They are designed as a pre-apprenticeship, pre-employment programme. So those young people who are looking to go on to work, employment, and want to build those skills, they're the type of audience that we're gathering there. They've relaxed the rules a little bit at the moment in reaction to COVID. So they are now a minimum of 6 weeks long, and they can last up to a year. So that 6 weeks is the length of the traineeship programme, not necessarily the 6 weeks with an employer. So that's from the start date that they come on the traineeship programme to the end date when they complete everything that's inside that course, needs to be a minimum of 6 weeks. And they are completely flexible. So they are an agreement between a training provider, a young person, and an employer or an organisation. So we'll just use employer for ease of terms. They can be changed at any point in the programme, so they can be extended, and they can be shortened as long as they don't go under that 6 weeks, and as long as all of the other elements in the programme are completed. So they're about building confidence and skills. So most of the time they will be with you in the workplace under your mentor and leadership, and you'll be teaching them the skills that they need to do the role that you're hopefully building your pipeline for. So the main thing is that they're going to reduce youth unemployment, and they have been quite successful in that way. They're not paid, so the young person who comes to you does not require a wage. You can give them some incentives, you can help pay for things. They may be entitled to a bursary. So if they are 19 and they are receiving universal credit, for example, it won't affect them claiming that universal credit. They will still continue to claim that as long as they don't do more than 35 weeks or more than 240 hours. As an employer, you don't need to worry too much about that. That should be the training provider that's organising it and setting it up, should make sure that that happens. But just so you know, I know a lot of young employers are concerned about the young person working 6 months without a wage. They may be entitled to bursary for travel costs. That again, the training provider will set them up with that. So if they're on a really low income, they may get travel costs and food vouchers and one-off payments to help them with PPE. As the employer, you can choose to give them a payment, but you don't need to. It's not a government requirement. And that should all be explained to the young person before they start the traineeship. And that's why most of them don't extend to a year long. Okay. So we skip through too many. The benefits to the employer. So these are flexible and they're sector focused. So there's no definite qualification, as it were, that you need to meet. So this is an agreement with you and the training provider. So you'll say, for example, in the cafe, I'm going to teach them a little bit about food hygiene. I'm going to teach them to prepare the foods that I cook. I'm going to teach them how to use the coffee machine. I'm going to teach them how to use the till. It's all very much on what you can teach them. So certain sectors, if they're under 18, they can't use power tools. So you would be using the hand tools and bits and pieces there. So you're going to teach them the skills that you want them to develop as an employer. You're also going to have the chance that some of it's been mentioned already. So your employees will learn how to do leadership training and a mentoring advice. So that may be that you've got people that you want to bring on in your company, that you can assign them as a mentor to this young person. It's a three-way agreement between the employer, training provider, and the young person. You'll also be able to increase your capacity and your productivity. So you've got extra young people involved. Now you can take up to 10 that you'll receive an incentive, which I'll touch on later. But there are no limits as to how many traineeships you can hire or give a vacancy to. It's only the amount that you can actually give a quality work placement to. So you're going to build your workforce, help your community, and reduce your youth unemployment. These are the other benefits and factors towards this. Wow, it goes to the next slide. There's a number of requirements that you need to do. Sorry, as we go skip back through. Just bear with me. So as an employer, there are some responsibilities and requirements. So these are part of the government programme, and as an employer, these are things that you need to make sure that you can provide when you're starting to think about setting up a traineeship. So number one, it has to provide a safe, high quality and meaningful work experience. In other words, you can't just take 10 trainees on to make some coffee and claim an incentive. It really is about making sure that they're getting work ready and they're building quality skills. So it needs to be safe. Your training provider will do a risk assessment of your experience, of your work placement. This is a risk assessment of your risk assessment. Okay, it's nothing really big and scary. They'll just give tips and advice. They'll probably at the moment also do a COVID risk assessment, and they'll need a copy of your employer's liability insurance. This is because when the trainee is with you, they're under your insurance. So public liability won't cover it. You need employer's liability insurance. In terms of providing a safe, high quality work experience, at the moment, I know a lot of us are working remotely. It's not classed as a high quality work experience placement. So they need to be face to face with somebody having that mentor and building those skills. You need to provide a minimum of 70 hours in not less than 2 weeks and a maximum of 240. Okay, so those benefits claimants, those on universal credit, can't do more than 240 hours across the whole of the course. Again, your training provider should make sure that all this is in the paperwork and they should be claiming this. Okay. As an employer, you need to give constructive feedback and advice because it's about building those skills and getting them ready. And the other thing you need to provide in order to make sure that you're meeting all the government requirements is you have to provide an interview. So this can be an interview for a job or an apprenticeship that you've got. If you haven't got any vacancies, then you can provide them with an exit interview and feedback. So it has to be an interview. If you have a vacancy, you need to interview them for the vacancy. And if you don't have any vacancies immediately or any apprenticeships, the only thing you need to do is an exit interview. So for example, Juniper, we provide mock interview questions. So we'll give you questions and a feedback form. So all you need to do is follow the process. You don't have to use them. You can develop your own as long as you've given them an exit interview, feedback and a reference, because again, it's about making sure we reduce youth unemployment. So helping them build those skills and take that information through with them. And how to set one up. Okay. So as an employer, as long as you're providing a safe environment and you can give them the meaningful work experience face-to-face, you can give them a minimum of 70 hours and you can give them an exit interview or an interview for a position and you're interested. The next thing is finding a training provider, which is quite easy. So you can go on the National Apprenticeship Service website at the .gov and list and ask through there. You can request through there. You can do an internet search for training providers in your area and contact them. So we sometimes just get people phoning up. I've been through the walk with a canal with my wife, and she's mentioned maybe we should have an apprenticeship. Not a problem. You can set that up. Stockport Jobs Match, they've got a directory of training providers. You can find them on there, contact them. Bridge GM again will be another link between training providers and industry and colleges. So it really is just a matter of finding someone who fits how you work as a business. Someone who maybe, if you're thinking about long term, you might offer apprenticeships. So maybe thinking about ahead. So who can support you with further training or those apprenticeships further down the line. If it's a training provider like us, for example, we're here to support the employers as well as the young people. So we've just got in touch with someone who runs a butcher's, and they want to offer a level 2, level 3 butchery apprenticeship. It's not something we provide, but we are out looking for colleges and providers that can deliver that qualification. We've got one that could fit, but it's not what the employer wants. So it's a case of finding the right training provider, the right employer, and the right young person, and putting it together like a jigsaw puzzle. And that's when it will work. By all means, if you're interested but you don't think Juniper are right, get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with other people as well. So you can have my email from Simone, she can hand it out. Get in touch and say, like the sounds of it, want to talk to a few other providers, who else is delivering? And they'll all want to get in touch with you. You need to complete that risk assessment. Someone from the training provider will come out and do the risk assessment with you and talk you through it and provide the ELI. Then you agree that job vacancy. So just like you were going to post a job for your business, you'd write the job description. So you agree that with the training provider, what you're going to teach them. You agree how many hours they're going to do, a week, a day, which days, which week, and that's you as the employer are agreeing that. Normally, it's usually within the working hours of the training provider, and that's purely because we're safeguarding support. If we're closed, we can't give you the extra support with the young person. So for example, for us, it would be Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and we would support you in those hours. And then you just monitor and change it as required. So these aren't fixed. Say, for example, you say with the employer, I'm going to do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They're going to come on work experience. And then something happens and you think, actually, the end of the week is better. So can I change the days to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Thursday, Friday, or increase them? You know, they're doing really well, they're learning really quickly. Can I give them more hours? As long as all three of you agree that it's the right thing, you can change the traineeship. So you can change the days, you can change the hours, you can change the frequency. You can do it in a block, then you can ease back. So they could come to you for a full entire week, you give them intensive training, and then they do a day a week. And you bring the next traineeship on and doing a week intensive with them, and then they do another day a week. As long as you can give the mentoring and support that they need, they are that flexible. So you complete all those requirements as an employer for the high quality work placement, the 70 hours minimum up to 240 hours maximum, 6 weeks, exit interview and feedback, and then you can claim an incentive. So at the moment, all traineeships delivered from the 1st of September to the 31st of July will receive £1,000 incentive up to 10 trainees per employer per region. So there are 9 regions. If you are a charity where you have different branches in different regions, you can claim 10 per region. You can have more than 10 traineeships, that's not a problem, but you'll only receive an incentive for up to 10. The traineeship for the incentive must be completed by the 31st of July. You can claim it up to October, but the hours for the work experience, those 70 working hours, need to be completed by the 31st of July. Your training provider will handle all of that. If there are any qualifications that the government requires in terms of maths or English or ICT, the training provider will provide those as well. So for the employer, they are free to deliver. It just means that you need to be able to give 70 hours minimum of your time to help develop a young person, a safe working environment where they've got the face-to-face, and an exit interview and feedback. and that's pretty much it. That's how it works. So has anybody got any questions?
There is a million questions in the chat. I shall read them out to you.
Right. Shall I stop sharing my screen now? There we go.
Great stuff. Thank you. So the questions are, will parents still get child benefit?
So anybody who's claiming benefits, because they're classed as a full-time programme, if they are 16 to 18 and the parent is still receiving the child benefit for them, it doesn't affect that at all. So yes, parents will still receive the child benefit because they're classed as full-time education.
And what, as an employer, if you were happy with the training provider but the young person had a problem with them, what would be your advice about that?
So as an employer, you can work with as many training providers as you like. It might get difficult in the fact that you're juggling everyone's different styles and everyone's different bits of paperwork, but you can work with as many training providers as you like. There's no cap. So you can work with one training provider for one young person, another training provider for another young person, and a third one for work experience, and a fourth one for apprenticeships. As many as you can handle, you can work with, or evaluate what the relationship is. And maybe you need a more supportive training provider, or maybe the young person needs a little bit more support from other areas as well. It's just about communicating between the three parties. Hopefully that answered that one. Ben?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've got a question. How does the young person pick his or her company to work for? So do they have, I'm guessing they have specific interests and are given a choice of which different companies they can work for? Yeah.
Yeah, so they can find it and apply for it in exactly the same way as a job. So when you discuss with your training provider, and they write up that job description, they'll usually post it for you on the National Apprenticeship Service, or on the NAS, which they'll probably call it, and in a number of other places. So it probably goes, so we advertise on the NAS, our own website, Stockport Jobs Match. We use another teenage recruitment company as well to get it out on social media, Total Jobs. So we advertise them in the same way as jobs, and the job description will say unpaid traineeship position. And one of the first questions when they ring up and ask about this apprenticeship, because they always call it that, we say, you do understand it's a traineeship and it's unwaged, and this is the employer you'll be working with. So
Cool.
That's how they find them.
That's great. And you can you request for young people with specific skills or specific interests?
Yes. So as the employer, you're writing the job description and agreeing it with the training provider. Because it's about building that pipeline, the training provider should only be putting people with you that really have an interest in doing that as a career. So there's no point in putting someone in a customer service environment if they actually want to go and do engineering, because the purpose is about them building the skills to go down the line. So if you're putting them in mental health or youth activities, and actually they want to go and do science and IT, you should be trying to find them a traineeship that works. Absolutely. Otherwise it all falls apart. Yeah.
And last one, sorry.
No, go ahead. I like it.
My mind's going, I'm going to end up with an army of young people. Last one. If we have some young people in mind, can we bring them to you and then specifically set up, a training scheme?
Yes.
Cool.
So as long as they meet those eligibility, which your training provider should screen for. So it used to be that they had to be 16 to 24, and they had to be educated below level 3, so they couldn't have A levels. They needed to be working at least level 1, level 2, so GCSE level. Because the result of COVID, all of that's kind of been completely relaxed. So A-level students who were going to go to university and decided it's not for them, they don't like how it's being run at the moment, or they're staying at home and they're looking at other options, anyone with an A-level or a level 3 qualification can do a traineeship. Anyone who's entry 3 So as a training provider, that's our minimum. So entry 3 is approximately age 7 to 9 literacy level. So anyone who's around an entry 3 can do a traineeship. We would upskill them. As a training provider, ethically, we'd probably say that there's more support needed if you were E3, and a longer study program with more teaching time would be better. But it completely depends on the individual and how ready for work they are and how committed they are. So your training provider should properly assess the young person and give you the feedback on, yeah, they're ready to go. Actually, I'd recommend that they're probably more apprenticeship ready. Would you like to set up an apprenticeship? Or they're traineeship ready. We can get them started on this, that, and the other. But yeah, by all means, you can bring the young people to the training provider. It works quite nicely that way, especially if you're already working with them.
Great, love it. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Also, sorry, one thing you didn't mention, but might be particular in some of your, if you're working with vulnerable young people or adults, your training provider will usually provide the DBS for free as well. They'll pay for that.
There is still a couple more questions in the chat. What about the weekends? Can you have placements on the weekend?
So this is a bit of a grey area. As our training provider, we say no. You can employ the young person on the weekend if you want. It wouldn't attribute towards their working hours, and that's purely because we provide the support to the employer and the young person. So our staff only work Monday to Friday, and on the weekends there's no support there. So say, for example, something happened in the workplace and you wanted to phone and speak to someone, there wouldn't be anybody there to contact. Likewise, if you had an issue and the young person didn't turn up. So it's about that safety barrier and support for you. Other training providers might have different policies, or they might have staff that work weekends. So again, it's about finding the right training provider to fit your needs and the programs that you're running and where you want to slot those young people in. So some of the people that we work with, they offer the volunteering hours on the weekend, but they know they're not part of the traineeship. It's just that they want the young person to have the extra hours. And if you and the young person agree, that's okay. As long as you understand that's not part of the traineeship incentive, that's a young person just volunteering with you, the same as if they weren't set up on this program. Then they do their hours during the week. So some of our students work paid shifts on a weekend and unpaid work experience hours during the week.
Okay, great, thank you. And also you mentioned about the financial incentive for employers is £1,000 per traineeship. You can have up to 10. But you probably don't want them all at the same time. But essentially you could have like one a couple of days a week and one another couple of days a week, and it's up to the end of July. And somebody's asked, are there likely to be incentives in the future? So if you weren't ready to take one between now and July, do you know yet if there's any plans to continue? No.
So at the moment it's been extended already. So it was supposed to be from September to January, then they extended it. So we're hopeful that it will be extended. They just announced an extension on the increase in the apprenticeship incentive. I think it depends very much on how much money's in the pot, and when at the end of the year they'll look at how it's worked, because obviously there's a bit of competition as well with T levels being introduced and them needing industry placements and COVID, and how employers can access that. So at the moment, we are saying to all our employers that there's 70 hours in order to claim the incentive. Please make sure it's done by the 31st of July, because if the incentive is quite important to the running of your organisation, which obviously in the volunteer and charity sector, it is going to make quite a big impact. Yeah, 31st of July, and then hopefully they will be extended, but we don't know yet.
Okay, so people need to get the roller skates on if they're thinking about it. And Pam said about her project only runs on a Friday with possible meetings on other days for planning and review. Would this still fit? I think it would, as long as you get at least 7 hours a week in over 7 weeks. Well, according to my maths, so it wasn't the best.
It's very quick, and it's because we're not even and I don't think we're going to be able to do it, because if we can't even open Friendly Fridays properly until the end of the roadmap. We can do it in limited ways, but we're doing it very ad hoc. Because we are a support group. So when you were saying these dates, I was assuming wrongly that you're talking about from September to July the next year.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that, I mean, we may be able to, but I don't know. I think it'll be very tight. If we could run it through the summer, we'd absolutely love young people to be there, because we're going to have families.
So we don't have term times, and most training providers.
But if it's got to be done by the 31st of July.
Yeah. So what you can do is, it's employability skills. So if you are still opening, cleaning, marketing and running.
Yeah, we are.
So it's about, so it's about teaching those young people all the aspects of work and managing expectations. So saying, sometimes we do have to pitch in, and we do have to go and clean the hall and set it up and sterilize things. It's about the whole factor.
Yeah.
So
our busiest time is going to be during the holiday, because we're an all age, everybody's welcome drop in.
Yeah.
And by June, July, we'll be up and running, and if the roadmap holds. But so during the summer holidays, we jump to 120 families. It's a lot of people that come in, and we want activities outside and things like that. And it will be amazing to have young people there to help plan it and deliver that. But if we have to have these incentives done by the 31st of July, our busiest time is in August.
I suppose they could potentially be there for the planning, Pam, but not the delivery.
I don't think we could get I'd have to work out the numbers then, because we need 70 hours. I don't know. Leave it with me. I'll have to do the maths. Thank you.
All right, no problem. Claire's asking, is there any information about apprenticeships?
Yes, so traineeships build onto apprenticeships. So I can put you in touch with one of our AEO, Apprenticeship Employer Engagement Officer, who will gladly talk you through. So it's the same portal that you claim the trainee incentive through is the same one that you put your apprenticeships through as well. So once you got it set up for traineeships, it's quite easy to go across onto apprenticeships. Apprenticeships are a bit more of a long-term commitment. So it's a minimum of 12 months that you need to keep a 16 to 18 plus apprentice on for, plus the wage, plus 20% out of time for training. But if it's something that you're interested in, and a number of our employers are, so they've set up the traineeships, and what they're doing is saying, I'm interested in apprenticeships, I'm not going to run them just yet, I'm going to trial the traineeship, see how it works, see if I get a young person that's going to work, and I can see, investment and future employee, and then an apprenticeship to build it on. And that's ideal, and they'll just slot together. So Claire, if you want more information, you want someone to talk to, I can give you someone to talk to about that. It's worthwhile. I'm guessing you might want something in the IT marketing area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's also, I said I'd mention, I'm just looking for the date now, there's also something called a Kickstarter that I know Stockport Jobs Match are doing an event on, which I feel like is in May. So after this, I will confirm that date and send you details. Oh yeah, I've got it here. Unless it's changed since I wrote it. It's Thursday the 20th of May from 2 till 3:30. Stockport Jobs Match are doing something similar but around Kickstarter. So if you want, I suppose, an understanding of all of the options before you make a decision, although you might want to not delay this decision if you decide on a traineeship because the time's limited. A couple more questions. Helen Holmes is asking, how flexible are the traineeships in terms of learning skills? Example, would we have to say, I'll train you as a barista, or is there the flexibility to see if they have an aptitude for a certain area like food prep, so they can swap and change what that learning looks like?
Absolutely. So this is the perfect bit about traineeships. This is how flexible they are. So as well as dialing them up, you can dial them down. You can change what skills you're going to teach them. So as long as you are identifying high quality work experience placements, for example, we have a work experience agreement that the employer, the young person and the training provider sign, and it will list the skills but it's a working document. So at any point, if we say, well, actually, I was going to teach them, for example, how to use the till, but I found out they're really creative in the kitchen. So actually, I'm going to focus more on those. So let's scribble that line out. I'm not going to focus on the tills and the payroll and the IT side. I'm going to focus on baking cakes and making coffees and, you know, creative displays in the food cabinet. And that's how flexible they are. So if you're identifying young people's skills that you think, or they're coming to you and saying, I've done a little bit of this, I really want to know more, that's all it is. So we provide a work placement book where they do reflection to get them ready for apprenticeship. So they're reading through what they've done every day, making a note, thinking about how they felt about it, how confident they feel, and building on it. So just because it's in the job description, they are completely flexible. You can change them. Sometimes we'll have advertised more than one role for an employer. So a company in Manchester is doing social media marketing and podcasting. So we've advertised 2 different roles and we see which ones get the most applicants. But at any point, they can merge the 2 or cross the 2 over. So just because you've advertised a certain role doesn't mean that you need to stick to it. It's about that work experience and getting them ready for work.
Brilliant, thanks. And Sarah said she couldn't make the start of the meeting. Don't worry, Sarah, we've recorded this so you can watch it. But she's asking, when do you need to apply by?
So as long as an employer you can get your 70 hours done by the 31st of July in less than 2 weeks. So it needs to be at least a 2-week work placement with you by the 31st of July. That's for the incentive. So traineeships as a programme won't end after 31st of July, just the incentive will. So the traineeships as they exist will carry on. Whether the relaxations stay in place for the E3 up to level 3, we're not sure. They might go back to just being the level 2 GCSE qualifications. But as long as you can give the 2-week placement by the 31st of July, if the young person is still finishing off other elements of their traineeship into the next year, so if they still haven't finished a maths qualification that they were sitting, for example, that won't affect your claiming of the incentive as long as the 70 hours are closed off by the 31st of July. I hope that answers that one.
And knowing what I know that Sarah does, so Sarah works with a lot of young people who might be in year 11, and the official school leaving date is usually the last Friday. So is there time, I'm asking this on your behalf, Sarah, to squeeze in someone who's been volunteering and being part of her programs for some kind of traineeship support for those first few weeks of July?
This is the difficulty, yeah. So if they are currently in school in year 11, then their funding won't necessarily be available till the end of the summer, the same as the apprenticeship rules. So they can start and apply, but it would be a case of their funding pot of money doesn't become usually available until the 1st of August. So it's
ideally
they already
they need to be a current year 11 leaver, not a new year 11 leaver.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. And Claire's asking, are there any rules on relationships? Could you employ a relative on a traineeship?
As long as they're meeting the eligibility criteria, so as long as they're not 16 to 24 or 25 with an EHCP, they are work ready, you're working towards it. The one thing that they do say is, because it's about kind of reducing youth unemployment and giving people opportunities, if you've already had them employed for 7 to 8 months volunteering, then it would be a question about whether we were actually improving skills that they already had, or whether you were using it for an incentive. That's a discussion to have with the training provider, but there's no rules, just as there's no rules on the fact that you can't employ a niece, nephew, son, daughter in your company, in your organisation. There aren't any rules on whether you can recommend them for a traineeship. So you can still refer them, you can still give them the opportunity. Yeah.
So we made you work hard for your money there, Rhiannon. Lots of questions. You weren't sure you'd fill the time, and here we go. And I still think people have got stuff to ask you.
Oh, I've got one. Yeah. What type of organisation or company are you? Are you a charity or just a limited company, or what?
So we're a limited company, so we're an independent training provider. So we source by government contracts for our funding for education programs. So we are funded by the ESFA and other bids that we put in for. And so our part of the funding for traineeships comes from delivering the qualifications. So that's how training providers will run the programs for you, is that they will get some funding for providing the maths or the English qualifications. And they will help you, should handhold you through setting everything up. But yeah, so we're quite a family run, family ethic company. So we were family owned, and we're still very small in terms of everyone knows each other, even though we've got 20 centres across the country. We are community minded, and we just want to work with local employers and help them and support them with the young people.
Great, thanks, Rhiannon. And Sarah, and she's set me up for, I suppose, closing the session in terms of if people who watch this video, who are on this session now, are interested, what do they do next, Rhiannon? What's the next step if they want to secure one of these traineeship options?
So the next step is get in touch with the training provider and start the conversation, and they will hold your hand. Now, I am more than happy to do it if anybody wants to send me an email. The beauty with them is you can start the ball rolling. You can get to the point where you've got an apprenticeship advertised, traineeship advertised on the NAS, on the National Apprenticeship Service, and you can still hold it, pause it, stop it, change it. That's how flexible they are. If we're not the right training provider for you, by all means, let me get you in touch with other training providers across Stockport, or put you in touch with the NAS and help you list your traineeships through there. So if you want to contact me and you're interested in starting it, I'll either happily help you set it up, or I'll put you in touch with someone else who will help you set one up. And then Claire said, young people already with level 2s, what would they learn, or does it depend? So if they've already got maths and English GCSE or equivalent, they would do more qualifications on the employability skills. So for example, we do 10 CPD courses, which are linked to the sector they want to go into. So it might be that they're doing health and social, drug awareness, alcohol abuse, or it might be IT, so Excel, software, marketing, branding, manual handling. So we do 10 CPD courses with the young person as well, which again is no cost to the employer, and you can help pick which 10 they do. So level 2 qualifications, it just means that they get more time with you, and there's less restrictions on the length of the programme because they've already got maths and English.
Great, thank you. Has anyone got any final questions? No, perfect. We managed to keep you for 45 minutes there. Great stuff. I'm going to stop the recording.